Hey, Paul.
Yo,
Yo. I've already done a big intro, but to everyone, this is Paul Demore. Paul, you are currently in ministry.
that's right.
You've done time in the band Tool. You have your own solo stuff. Um, I just say right now, like, what got you? We talked before, and I sort of said, pigeonholed you as just a bass player, and you were totally correct in saying that you are a musician. So what did you start on? Like, what was your first instrument?
Oh, I think, as all of us kids growing up, playing punk rock music in the garage, it was just musical chairs. Whoever grabbed whatever first, I think we all sort of learned how to play a bit of the drums and
Right.
bass, whatever was just, there's like 100 different bands with different people in the scene. And, you just like float around and, uh, Jack of all trades, master of none. Is that what it is?
Right. Yeah. Well, I love that though. And I used to do the same thing. You want to get to practice early and play the guy's drums before he got there, and then he'd show up and, what the fuck are you doing to my drums? Whatever. Uh, it's always fun.
Yep.
I've always been a frustrated drummer. So, um, did you gravitate toward any one thing specifically, or do you just kind of play whatever with whoever?
I mean, I just, I just like making cool music. So however that
Yeah.
happens, I never really had like a you know, you just make it happen.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so
And
I don't
what?
know. I guess I sort of like for the bass, it kind of I was a big fan of the band No Means No,
Oh my
and
God.
that that bass sound was so different than what everybody thinks of just walking the dog and kind of hanging back and doing that thing. And that dude was just like he was it.
Well, you just
Guitars
you
were like
just
secondary to that.
you just derailed this podcast because that's one of my favorite bands, and
Yeah.
I uh, I'm not only a Rob Wright, John Wright fan, but I'm specifically an Andy Kerr fan, the original Andy Wright guitar player singer. Um,
Right.
and a
Yeah.
matter of fact, a fan of his bands, Hiss and All, and now he has a band that I think I'm the only one that knows about. It's a band called Two Pin Din. That it's him and the guitar player for the band, the Dogface Hermans, and they do this like it sounds like No Means No, but it's just two guitar players, no drums, no bass, but it's
Hmm.
his voice, his like, you know how angry that guy sounded? He sounded like
Oh
he was
yeah.
gonna fucking blow up a grocery store or something. Um,
Yeah.
like
He's definitely got
perpetually.
bomber qualities going there.
Yeah, like serious ill will toward humanity kind of a thing. And I've just, God damn it, I've just been such a fan and such a fan of them and Rob Wright specifically, to where I sort of found out that that bass tone was it was a Jubilee series solid state Marshall head. It was a rack space, like a rack head.
Oh yeah. I never really found out the. I just kind of did my own thing and did
Well,
our
it makes
best.
so much sense. It makes so
Yeah.
much sense now. Hearing that from you, because your work with Tool, I mean, Jesus Christ, that's got Rob Wright all over it.
Yeah.
That makes so much
Certainly.
sense.
I tried to chase those big piano sounds, just like
Yeah.
just piano wire through a Marshall. That's kind of what I've always kind of tried to get to.
Well,
Now the
that's
kids are
exactly,
doing that
yeah.
with all the dark glass, gink, 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 all that super
Yeah.
bright, clangy stuff. I think it's gone a little too far and it's lost some of that warmth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. My brother is a professional bassist. He's in a band called the Toadies, and they're recording with Steve Albini right now. And my brother also is a Rickenbacker practitioner, which we'll get
Yeah,
into that. And he always chases that Rob Wright tone as well. And did get
not
have
easy.
success. It's not easy, but I think the sort of nucleus of it is a solid state bass rig, in my opinion. Um, Seems
Yeah,
like
I
at
never.
least.
I guess I did play a Gillian Kruger. I had like the 800 RB for a minute,
Yeah.
and that was kind of close. I think Justin from Tool is still playing those ones, and I think he's sort of gotten a little bit of that sound going too. So
Sure. Sure. It seems like he'd have to,
But
coming
he
in after
learned from the
you.
best, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, God, he uses those wall bases too. Those things are so fucking. They're great, and they're like 10,000 a base. It's nuts.
Oh yeah, those are really great sounding basses.
They really are. Um, wow. Okay, so that makes so much sense. And I'm so glad to have heard you say that. And I mean, what a fucking band No Means No are. God, or were.
Yeah,
Shit.
I just kind of like those first like 3-4 records were just like so stunning. I guess I have to admit I lost track of them over the years, and I'm sure they have all
Well,
these side projects. I did see what was the where they do the Ramones covers,
yeah, the
this
Hanson brothers.
the Hanson brothers. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
they were fun, but
I
you know,
wasn't as big a fan after they lost Andy Kerr, but I still was a fan because I mean, there's still No Means No, and it's
yeah,
just, it's like I just want to know what their motivation was. Like, that wasn't that's hours and years of practice to get that good every night. I saw them a bunch, they're always just spectacular. It's just fucking
yeah,
hell.
yeah. They would place. I sort of came up in Spokane and Seattle, and so I was fortunate enough to sort of live in pre and sort of during the big grunge explosion there. So
Sure.
I if I remember right, I saw them play with Nirvana or something too. It was like,
Oh my
before
god.
anybody knew anything about anything, it was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, that was great back then because you could see bills like that. You
Yeah.
know, I remember the same thing. You would see like Helmet on a bill with Tad
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or No Means No and some ska band or whatever. It was just you're right. There was never you never knew really where to put bands. Fugazi played with every fucking as long as it was under some sort of alternative quote unquote umbrella. It worked.
Yeah,
Um,
there are some cool like West Coast sort of noise bands going too that were really, really great.
oh yeah,
That
yeah,
sound.
yeah. Well,
And Jesus Lizard too is another one that sort of like kind of that bass sound in that band really sort of wanted kind of made me see it in a different way.
yeah, David Williams Sims. I mean, it's funny. My brother's up there right now trying to kind of do the. It's hard not to want to do that thing when you're with Steve Albini.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah.
it's just good stuff. But so let me get a little nerdy. You back then you were using a Rickenbacker and specifically the Chris Squire model. Any reason? I mean, you had a regular 4003, correct? And then
Yeah,
you
I
got the
think I used that on like the first opiate record. Actually, the first bass I was playing in with Tool was one of those Ovation sort of Danny Bonaducci ones
yeah.
with the big
Yeah.
beefy like bridge in the back.
Yeah, it looks like a bass would be mounted on it or something.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
big mudbucker pickups in the bridge or in the
Yeah.
neck. That one was kind of the first one. But I just kept like bloodying my fingers on that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It had like a big metal surround around the picks, and then I sort of like finally I tried a bunch of different things, and the Rickenbacker was just finally the one that really kind of
Worked
was like
out.
got that little more of a that guitar-y clang to it.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
first 4000 ones I didn't think had quite the low end, and then I tried the Chris Squire one, and it was a little more full bodied with still keeping that top.
Okay. Yeah, I think that bass was also to his specs, which he had like painted it and then sanded it down. So it sanded down, he had like done, so it had this real specific sort of clang and mid range to it.
Yeah, that's all
But
that
man,
voodoo stuff. I don't know about.
yeah, it's true.
Everybody
I mean,
has.
it's also just Chris Squire, I mean, there's those immortal people that they just could play anything and they just sound like that. Um,
Well, it's funny. Like as the years have gone by, and I've played a bunch of different things. I'm actually playing Fenders right now, and I've just somehow figured out that it's almost in my fingers at this point. Like
yeah,
I can make that sound happen with a lot of different things that you wouldn't think. And
sure.
like even just the guys in ministry, they're like, "Dude, how do you just sound like you?" And I'm like, "I don't
Yeah.
know." It's just
Yeah,
that I don't. It is a little bit of your how you attack things and your phrasing and
Right.
um,
Well, because guys like you and me, there's been so many throw and go situations. You get thrown on a festival and you're playing rented gear, and you have to you can hear it that you have to accommodate somehow between the two hands to make it sound the way you want to sound it, because you're not getting it out of your amp. You do
yeah.
that so many times that you just get good at making that sound. So then when you go to your own stuff, it's like you personified. You're overcompensating, but you've gotten these bag of tricks to make you sound like you, essentially.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's definitely true.
yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. So,
Yeah.
so after Tool, we don't, I know you've talked about that. You've had to have talked about that ad nauseums, and we don't need to do that, unless, of course, you'd like to. But after between Tool and Ministry, what was going on? I know you did some solo stuff, and you had some projects on your own.
Yeah, we did like the Replicants cover thing with the guys from Failure and Chris Pittman, who was ended up being in Guns N' Roses for a long time, and
Yeah.
that. And then I did the Lusk Free Mars record, which was sort of at the end of that record label that Tool was on, Volcano
Okay. Yeah.
imploding. So unfortunately, that never really found a lot of success, but it's funny, over the years it's sort of become like a bit of a cult classic. People are
Right.
always like writing articles about it at the Lost Paul record, I guess. I don't know. But that record for me was like, I guess, Tool is sort of this, to me, was at the time a little one dimensional. It was like bass, drums, guitar, blah, blah, blah. Everybody does their thing. And I was just like, I kind of just got this fever, like, I want to do everything. And so
Right.
that was sort of how that sort of, I want weird synthesizers, and I want to be able to do massive, crazy effects and layers and not have any boundaries. And I think that was a fun time.
Right. Right.
It was
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
first time I felt like I had freedom as a musician, because we finally got ADATs. So this is
Right.
sort of when Pro Tools just wasn't quite, or whatever the DAWs were out at the time, they weren't quite up to snuff to do a lot of stuff. So those 16-bit ADATs came out. We got 4 of those and a Mackie board, and we just went to town for
Yeah.
hours all day. We rented a house and just like, what do you want to do? I don't know. It was experimental and crazy, and
Yeah.
anything goes. It was really a cool blossoming, for music. I think a lot of other musicians finally had that experience too. Over the years, I've talked to some of my peers from that era,
Yeah.
and we've all like, yeah, when we got ADAT, so it was like, okay, you didn't have to spend, you know, thousands of dollars for an engineer and all these studio time and
Right.
all this bullshit, and you had to make it in 5 days and mix it in 2 days, and you know, that's not.
I remember.
Sometimes that creates great art, that urgency, and I'm a firm believer in urgency, but at the same time, you gotta fuck around to find out.
Yeah. I remember those ADAT days. It was mind blowing, and then it was just the precursor to what we have now, which is GarageBand and Logic or whatever. That just, I mean, Jesus Christ, it just sounds fucking amazing if you mess with it a little bit.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny how quickly we as musicians, once we get around other musicians, become our 14, 13-year-old selves. If we got started early, it's like that youthful exuberance, that youthful wonder, and like, oh, dude, I got a riff, check it out. You know what I mean? It's like you meet it, no matter who the fuck you are. When you get in a room with other guys, you just revert to whoever you were when you started playing music with other people. I
Yeah,
love it.
totally,
I
totally.
absolutely love it.
So
How did
that kind of,
go ahead.
for me, like, I felt like that experience sort of opened the door for me to sort of do other things, and so I sort of stumbled into doing some film composing work, and whatever, doing some commercials, and make some easy. It's nice to do a TV commercial and make, you know, 20 grand and for
Yeah.
36 hours of panic.
Right. Right. I
So
have a
I
friend
found
that does
myself
that.
like doing like, you know, learning how to play the ukulele because this ad agency was in Hawaii and they really liked what I did. So I just kept doing all this commercial work. So I ended up, getting a bunch of awards in the Southeast Asia commercial market.
No shit.
I'm big in
That's
Asia.
that's awesome. I have a friend that does that for a living, and he said the hardest part for him was like making sure the song crescendoed at like, in a Hidden Valley Ranch commercial as the sun comes up over the hill, or whatever it might be. He said he had to like really time code that shit out and everything.
Yeah. It's an interesting puzzle. It's certainly not soul satisfying, but I actually quite enjoyed some aspects of that. Just I
Yeah.
couldn't do it all the time, but but I do enjoy putting music to picture as a really powerful tool, a powerful
Yeah.
medium. It's really
Yeah.
like I've worked on some shit films, and all of a sudden you put in a little bit of cool vibe, and all of a sudden the actors dialogue isn't so flat and the scene has a little momentum, and that's satisfying to do for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as musicians, I feel like music kind of makes everything better.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. 100%.
how did ministry come around? How did that happen for you?
I don't know. I had met Al a couple times in the '90s, and we had some history there, and yeah, and then we just sort of through our dentist. We
Ah,
had shared the same dentist. I think our dentist probably broke some rule there, but he was saying, "Oh, I need a bass player." Well, our bass player just left or whatever, and then because Al and I had sort of lost touch over the years. I think he had a little. Um, anyways, he was off doing his Al ministry, had its turn there, and um,
yeah.
but yeah, so the dentist was like, uh, "Well, actually, we have a cool bass player. That's one of our clients too." And he mentioned my name, and then we just sort of like reconnected, and it just seemed like a really good fit.
Are you still out in LA?
I live in
Are you out
Ojai.
in LA?
Ojai.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Oh, hi. Oh,
It's
hi.
like
Gotcha. Okay,
an hour and a half from downtown LA, basically.
gotcha, gotcha. Well, that's. I mean,
Yeah,
I when I
ministry was like kind of it was a good fit for me just because I was such a huge fan, coming up, and I think those records were always being played while we were making those Tool records, and it was just part of
yeah,
my zeitgeist at this point, so
yeah,
those I just feel like they're my songs in a weird way,
yeah.
even though I write them. They're just
No,
like
I
just built in.
I get that. I mean, you do own a certain part of this music that's sort of ubiquitous in your life. You do have a bit of ownership on that, and especially as a musician, where you might have already learned those songs because they were just sort of in your head, like, oh, I wonder what that riff is, whatever. And
Yeah,
I have a bit, like we talked about, I have a bit of the same sort of thing with specifically ministry because of like the immortal guitar player Mike Scascia, who rest in
yeah,
peace, was a great friend of mine, and so he was, of course in ministry, and especially that one lineup, the "Mind Is a Terrible Thing to Taste" tour.
yeah,
That lineup, Martin Adkins and William Riflin and Mike,
yeah,
and just
yeah,
Paul
yeah,
Barker. It's just amazing,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
What a great band!
yeah.
What an important band! And when I heard you were playing with them, I was just like, wow, that is such a. It makes so much sense, and B, that is such a great pairing. That's just great.
Yeah, it's been a blast too, and the it's a killer band right now. All the guys are so awesome, and it's
Is Roy
it's
Mayorga still your drummer?
Roy is the drummer. Roy and I have a great time playing together. He's so awesome.
I bet he's a great guy. I've met him a bunch, and we've doing the festival circuit together and for a
Yeah,
while. And yeah, I
yeah.
love
He
that
and I
guy. What
just
a nice
lock
guy.
in so well.
Yeah. Also in the punk band, what Anti-Cimex? What is that the band he's in? I could be wrong, but I believe he's in Anti-Cimex. And I could be
Roy?
pronouncing that wrong. Yeah,
Oh, I don't
yeah.
know. He does a lot of stuff. I can't
He
keep track of his. He was in
he re-
Nausea. That was like the big New York.
nausea. He was in Nausea. I knew that. and I could have sworn he also toured with it. There was like a documentary about it. I gotta be saying that wrong. But anyway, blah. But we'll tell him I said hi. He's
I will, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna
he's a
see him
great
on
guy.
Tuesday, so we're just
Oh,
getting
good.
ready to start or doing a quick video, and then we start rehearsals right after that.
Did and I think I'm totally wrong about anti-Semitic. I think you're right. It was just nausea. Anyway, so how long will this? You guys are doing? Have you done the festival circuit this summer, or are you?
No, we did our big spring tour, and then I think Al was moving into a new house, and there's just didn't summer we everybody just kind of took summer off, I guess. And so
Gotcha.
now we had which was a great tour. We had Gary Newman out with us in Frontline Assembly. It was like such a great lineup.
I
Both
heard
those
about
bands
that.
were really really awesome. So
It
it
broke
was a
my
really nice
heart.
pairing.
It broke my heart I didn't get to go see that because I'm also a huge Gary Newman fan. I actually asked him if I could meet him one time. I was just like, "Hey, can I meet you?" And he was like, "Yeah, you already are." Like, you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's a
But man,
sweetheart. I'm sure he's
what
up for anything.
what a talented guy! Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, and we're all like super like, you know, 80s geeks in the band, and
Yeah, it doesn't
so
get
we
more
were all just
80s.
like worshiping at the feet of Newman every night. It was really fun.
Those Two Boy Army records, man. Jeez.
Yeah. He didn't play as
Um,
much of the old stuff as I would have liked, but his new stuff is it's different, but it's good. It's good.
good, good.
Yeah. Yeah, and the
That's
band
awesome.
his band is great.
And
But yeah,
what a
so
great
now we're
package.
going out with uh Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie.
That's a great tour.
And also filters opening, then Ministry, Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie, I think is what it's going to be. So that's
Oh,
going to be like fun,
that's
major markets, playing
yeah.
sheds and arenas, and you know,
What a fucking package. Jesus Christ.
yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I don't really know all the newer Alice Cooper stuff too much, but I'm certainly a
yeah.
fan. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's
I
going to be
mean,
quite a show, and there'll be some guillotines and
sure.
electrocutions and some boa constrictors and all the
Well,
good
you would
stuff.
hope. One would
Yeah,
hope,
yeah,
It'd be like
yeah,
Guar without the costumes. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
you want to see all the shit.
yeah,
Um, oh man, what a package. And it's like there are those mega tours now, the sort of Def Leppard and Motley Crue and all that. And I I'm not a Taylor Swift music fan, but I do believe she's bringing people to these like large stadium shows, and people want to go see live music. And
yeah.
bands like our bands get to do these huge packages now and play in these bigger arenas because it's kind of becoming commonplace, which is great.
Yeah, it's
Great.
like little. I think that's the new thing because we went out with Slayer on their farewell tour, so it was like Phil Anselmo, Ministry, Primus, Slayer. That was like it's like a
Wow.
mini festival package.
It
So
is. It
yeah.
is. And as well as I do, for those packages for guys like you and me, we do a 30-45 minute set and we're like, you can go catch a movie that night and shit.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah,
It's the
I think
best.
we get 40 minutes, and that's just like enough to just go out there and give it 110% and
For
leave it
sure.
on the stage.
Yeah.
When you're
Just
the headliner, you got to kind of like pace yourself
yeah.
to pull off
Yeah.
2 hours or whatever it is.
It's just bang, 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 just all the hits, and then
Yeah,
later.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
meat and potatoes. There's a couple new ones, but yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome. So you've had a chance to record with the guys now, and
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. How was that process?
Well, I think at the heart of it, it's Ministry is Al's baby, and he just, he has this vision for how everything's going to sound. And I think you just kind of bring it, everybody comes in and does their little bits and tries to, make it better. And, we'll write a bunch of stuff. Al will tear it apart and cut it up and chop
Right.
it in half and flip it and add samples and all kinds of stuff. And um, then you come back and reinterpret it again. And, that's
Right.
how it goes.
All right. That's fun though.
So,
You know. Yeah.
yeah.
That's a,
In a weird way, it's, I enjoy it because it's sort of, when you're making, this is my album and I got to just lay it all out there and put my soul on a platter and do my best, greatest thing ever every single time. And with Ministry, I just hear some cool shit, see what happens. If it doesn't
right.
get on the record, whatever,
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
it is what it is. And it's a little kind of a cool outlet for me to sort of, throw
Sure.
some shit at the wall and see what happens.
Well, it's fun because it kind of leaves ego at the door, right? It's like
Exactly. Yeah.
I've had this
100%.
conversation with a few guys that have joined already established bands that already have their thing and already have their sound. I did it. I mean, I joined a band that had already been very established, and you sort of have to leave everything at the door because they have worked on this thing and curated this thing that is obviously successful and that, I mean, they're doing fine.
Yeah.
And so it's a learning curve, you kind of have to get over, your own thing really.
Yeah. Which is fine. It's like I have the ability to do anything I want, so I can do that when I want to.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can go do your own thing, which is,
Yeah. And I love playing with Ministry. Those guys are awesome. And it's a blast to be able to be involved in that.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself, well, like when you do play guitar, and your own thing and stuff, what do you gravitate towards? What guitars do you like the most?
Oh, I have a 90s gold top Les Paul. What is it? Whatever the Les Paul special. I forget what the model is, but that's all I ever play. I can make that Les Paul do everything,
Yeah. You
It's
really
just
kind of can.
you cue it right. You can get some jangly sounds. If you want beefy, badass rock and roll, there it is. If you want some dark jazzy neck sounds, there it is. Roll that tone knob off and you got fuzzy grunge. And it's to me is one of the best, greatest guitars of all time.
I mean, it's undeniable. It's what I use as well, and you just kind of can't, fuck. I mean, I get bored sometimes because they're just so good. It's like, it's fun, but then everybody plays them, and it's like, I always respect the guys like the SST guys like Greg Ginn or whoever that just found a weirdo guitar and they stuck with that by hook or crook. Now, sometimes like the Dan Armstrong that he used or the Moss Wright 2 that Johnny Ramone used, they're shitty guitars, they're breaking, they're doing, you have to modify them to get them to work and shit. So it's a struggle. I get it. And when you're like, just play a fucking Les Paul and you're going to be fine. But I respect the struggle. I guess I respect the struggle.
Yeah. No, I certainly have my share of pawn shop, Frankenstein guitars.
Oh, sure.
Those each have some interesting tones too. Excuse me. So, but, and then you can't replicate this.
Oh, no, not at all. This is a Dan Electro, everybody. Yeah, you can never replicate that. No. Has your rig, are you like on profilers now with Ministry, or are you still using straight up tube amps?
I kind of do a combo. I am actually going back to Ashdown for this tour for the head.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Which I think are great sounding amps. I was using that Dark Glass one for a minute, but the clean sound was just so flat.
Okay.
God bless you, Dark Glass. And I use their pedals though. I use the BK7 and they have this other preamp thing that's pretty rad too. So I put that in the head, and then I come out of that into the 2 Notes audio speaker emulator.
Oh, okay.
And we'd actually have a Ministry pack that we made for 2 Notes, which is rad for front of house, and it's pretty. You can really tweak it. It sounds really nice. So we modeled like the original like old dog Ministry Warlord 810 Ampeg cabinet. So
wow.
Yeah. That thing,
That's right.
that thing's been through battle, but it sounds amazing.
Right.
Um, so it's sort of a combo, and I think I just got these. Emperor just made me some cabinets,
Yeah, those are great cabs.
so I think I'm gonna probably blend the mic with the two notes thing and see if we can make that happen.
Make
Because
that
I'm
thing.
kind of
Wow.
as much as I love the digital thing and it's super reliable, I miss a little bit of that warmth from a microphone.
Sure.
It's a little
Yeah.
not as consistent, I think, as the two notes because we're all
Yeah.
on ears too.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
So
People
I like that
understand. Like,
consistency, and you end up with having your monitor mix r- exactly the same every single night. But
yeah. I mean, it's always crazy to me when I see somebody doing these bigger festivals and they're not on ears yet. You know what I mean? Like the old school guys, like how the fuck, it just standardized everything. And with amp profilers, you're right. It's like it is a consistent thing. And I actually hear different frequencies in the profilers that I don't hear in my Marshalls, but there is a
yeah,
give and a take. You're right. There's a warmth you sort of do give up for sure. For
yeah,
sure.
and the guy and Monty and Caesar, the guitar players, those guys are both using Kempers. I know that they Caesar's been kind of going back and forth, and he also plays a wizard,
Oh
one of
yeah.
those wizard heads. So he's been sort of one night it's the wizard, one night it's the Kemper. He can't make up his mind, which is they both have these like different sounds.
Yeah. I'm with them, man. I doing the same thing. I go back and forth between my Marshall stuff and the Kemper stuff. But
And
ultimately
for in the studio, I been loving the Neural DSP
oh
plugins.
yeah.
Those sound
Yeah,
fantastic.
I have one right here.
Oh, there you go. I was thinking about getting one of those.
They're they're great. They're
It's the
great.
Kemper killer, I hear.
That's what they call it. And you know what? I just got in the Kemper, and then our bassist Joe started talking to these people. For anyone that's listening, it's the Quad Cortex. Um, and they sent me one out to demo, and man, you can't fucking really argue. You can't argue with any of it. It sounds fucking great. And
Yeah.
they're presets. You can profile your own stuff with it, but just their presets, it's like everything's already in there.
Yeah.
Yes, I might have like a hot rodded, which I do have a hot rodded GMP that I like, but I can get a reasonable facsimile of it in this
Yeah.
by just
Yeah.
fucking with, whatever.
I know. I
Yeah,
don't want to like those things, but then they rule. So it's like, what can you do?
they really, yeah, it's like, what can you do? Especially for flyouts and things like that, like you and I do. It's like,
Yeah.
and
For live,
also
too.
the reliable, and the argument can be made like guys like you and I have a crew and shit, but man, it's so much easier for like a travel pack. It just, anyway,
Yeah.
I'll get in the weeds talking about that. So, before I ever let anyone go, I always ask, do you have something that, like one that got away, like a guitar or an amp or a piece of gear or something over the course of touring, like maybe you hawked or you got stolen or something like that, you lost?
Huh. I've never really had anything stolen, but I sort of I just got back my first that Ovation bass I was talking about
Oh,
that I first started. I gave it to like a family member, and they were starting a band. I was like, "You're a kid, why don't you play on this?" And that just sort of disappeared, and I forgot about it. And I finally was like, "Where did that go? I need that back. I need the."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that
Well,
just
that
came back into my possession.
I love those stories that they actually come back because
Yeah.
it's like it meant something to you, and
Oh yeah.
did that make it on any Tool recordings?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think it was just that first 4001 and the Chris Squire that I ended up playing with.
I'm
Maybe
with
maybe there was like a
yeah.
live thing or something. Oh, I know. It's on the demos, the first Tool cassette demos. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure that's
okay.
what was on that.
No
So,
shit. That's
so
that's an interesting tidbit. Yeah, because those basses are so Oh my God. And there was the guitar, the breadwinner. Their guitar was the Ovation breadwinner. And Ace Frehley actually played one of those for a bit. And there's a few
Yeah.
pictures, but such oddball guitars, man.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very 60s or 70s or whatever. I don't know what year that
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. Of the time, that's for sure. I remember
Yeah.
there was that, you're right. There was like that ashtray looking thing around the pickups.
Yeah.
It was like
That's
a
the one. Yeah.
weird,
I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
the Danny Bonaducci from the Partridge Family had one. So that was cool.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did. Well, I won't keep you much longer, man. So what's coming up next for you? What do you got going on?
Well, I'm I'm working on a project. It's kind of like a super group kind of thing.
Okay.
So uh, it's unnamed and it's not out yet. So I'm kind of keeping it on the DL. But it's pretty high profile lead singer who's on tour right now with a big band,
Rad.
and an amazing drummer who's also out on tour with a pretty hot shit band. So I'll let you know when that comes out.
Rad.
But it's basically me. I wrote all the music, and then those guys are coming in to do the vocals and drums, and it's
Awesome.
going to be
Well,
badass.
so you're playing guitar and bass, everything, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Awesome. Well,
yeah. So
when that
hopefully, when everybody comes back from tour in the fall, we'll uh, we'll pull that out of our asses and
awesome.
let you have
Well,
it.
when it comes out, I'd love to talk to you again, and we can, speaking
Yeah,
of supergroups, you did talk about the Replicants and with the Failure guys. I just love that band as well, and
yeah.
that's also a great mix. You with those guys, you're such a discernible. You're right. You do sound like you with whatever you do, and you are such a discernible player with such a discernible voice, which I think is the hallmark and the sort of achievement any musician's looking for, that they can sound like themselves on whatever piece of gear or whatever they do, and they brought a signature sound to something. So I feel like
Thanks.
of course I feel like Ministry are lucky to have you, and what a great pairing. I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good times.
And Rob Wright, it makes so much fucking sense, so much sense. So happy you
Come
I'm
out and
so
see
happy
us.
you
We're
said that.
coming to Texas, I think. Dallas is the first show of the tour.
Awesome. Well, I'm from there, and I will. I'll come out with Casey Orr, who's done time in ministry.
All
Shout out
right.
to
Yeah.
Casey Orr.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on.
All right. Well, hey, Paul Demore, thank you so much for doing the podcast. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.